Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Healing Heart to Heart. I'd like to introduce you to Kati Bauchman. Kati is a licensed professional counselor who is certified in grief, loss, and trauma. For the last decade, she has been working in the specialized field of death and dying. Kati, can you please help us to understand more about the complex process of grief and loss?
I will try, Susan. Thank you for inviting me to this experience. I do have a particularly tender place in my heart around grief and people who are grieving. I feel as though from the moment I remember thinking that I loved working with people who were in grief because it was a human experience, and it was one of the most hopeful places I found myself while working with people in the area of counseling and psychology and mental health. I see grief as an organic human process that we are all born to do. And it is a part of being human. And my teachers of the world of grief confirm me in that they affirm that this is a part of the dance of life. And one of the reasons I am committed to this work is because in the modern day, we have not taught our people how to grieve, and we've lost our way around something that is so human and natural. And well intended, I believe, the medical community, the mental health community, approach something that is so natural through the lens, many times, of psychology, and sometimes pharmacologically and medically directed. And I decided to focus my work on the other part of grief, which isn't medical, pharmacological, and or psychological. And I believe in people when they are in grief. I believe in their ability to find their way. I see people's ability. I experience it. And what I've learned more than anything from the people I sit with is that there is no staged oriented experience, that there are aspects of grief that our teachers that have come before us have helped us create a guide as the typical stages of grief. However, those are just guides and just a framework to help understand something that is going to happen to all of us if it hasn't already. I guess my greatest intention and my greatest hope is to teach people and to convince people that we're not supposed to be alone when walking in this, and that when we can be witnessed and when we can be contained and cared for in something that we deny overall in our culture, we heal. We actually feel more empowered and more seen than we've ever sometimes in our whole entire journey. Grief is an experience that shatters the identity, that breaks us so far open that we are sometimes meeting a parts of ourselves that we have never met before. And I believe they're sometimes the greatest parts of who we are, the deepest parts of who we are, that the world needs to see. Sometimes I think that's one of the reasons grief happens, is so people can get in touch with parts of themselves that are so beautiful and deep and rich and more true than anything they ever thought they were. And I believe, spiritually speaking, that is what grief is about, is to break us open to who we really are. And if we can move from that place and trust that place, we heal. And we become more whole and more complete, and sometimes, in my experience, more joyful at the end, when we are fully integrated. I don't believe that we ever get over the loss of someone we loved. I don't believe that's the right word. That's not the right language. It is more about integrating something that we love deeply into our souls, that where we find that they haven't gone anywhere and that they are right here, and that we are being asked to look at what human journey is about in a very different way when we're in grief, and it is an opportunity to wake up and live in your much more true essence, much more authentic self. And the question that you and I were discussing about when the identity shatters and who we are and how do we pull it back and find our way, I believe grief is asking us to trust in our inner knowing, to trust in a deeper connection into something greater than us, greater than who we are, something bigger. And when we are being asked to do that, it is the ultimate surrendering. It is the ultimate trust, letting go and trust. And when we can find our way through trusting something we can't see, something we can't touch, something we can't always smell, something we can't talk to, we are expanded, we are greater, we are bigger, and we are better. So in this great depth of sadness and tragedy and bad things keep happening, I believe the opportunity is for us to go deeper and to be more kind and to appreciate the minute that's in front of us and maybe the minute that just passed us, but to slow down, see each other, and be more kind. That's really what I see grief gives all of us. And if you don't know the depth of sadness that lives inside of you, then how can you know how kind you can be? Because to me, it goes together. And when you've touched sadness and a depth of lonely and a depth of empty, sometimes the only thing that makes sense anymore is trying to love and trust what you have in front of you, what you have right with you all the time. And when you can learn to do that, you change your relationship to these bad things. You change the relationship to the suffering that we are being asked to experience in this journey of humanity.
Thank you, Kati. Thank you for sharing with depth about your experience with grief, and thank you for sharing from your heart.
You're welcome, Susan.